everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to have you here. I've been getting a lot of questions about having a C-section and tips and tricks that I might recommend to people that might be about to have one. So I just decided to do a video on it. I don't think I was fully prepared for what a C-section would mean for me once it was finished. So I just wanted to offer some of the things that I learned through the process in hopes that it will help someone in the future not make the same mistakes that I did. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I just want to start by throwing like a TMI warning out there. I'm going to be talking about things that are a little bit gross, I guess. I mean, they're a natural part of birth, but they might make other people uncomfortable. So if you're a man, for instance, I know this type of topic will not be your cup of tea, so you might just want to turn it off right now. And for any women out there who are not interested in hearing the gruesome after effects of having a baby, maybe you also want to turn it off right now. So now that I've got that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about my first recommendation, which is do not neglect your colace. What is colace, you might be asking? Well, it's a stool softener. Yes, my first recommendation is not to neglect your stool softeners. So what I wasn't prepared for was that the hardest part about having a C-section birth, for me anyway, wasn't actually the birth of the babies themselves. It was trying to have a bowel movement afterwards. Now keep in mind, you've just had major surgery on your abdominal wall, and this plays a key part in you having a bowel movement. Am I right? Also, through the surgery, the doctors have been messing around with your bowels, and sometimes that causes them to act a bit funny. In fact, the doctor said that it is completely normal to not be able to have a bowel movement for several days after your surgery. Now, for those of you who are regular, going several days without having a bowel movement is a lot of days. And I mean, things start to get backed up in there. Hence, not wanting to have a big, hard as rock poop to have to get out when you have a major incision going on down there. I lead with this tip because I did not neglect my colace, which is what the doctors had given me after my surgery, and I still had a difficult time. I make jokes that this was like having my third baby. Now I know that this is gross and uncomfortable to talk about, but you need to know this if you're about to have a C-section. If the doctor gives you anything in terms of stool softening or anything to help move things along, make sure you're taking it. My next step is to get up and get moving as quickly as you can and as much as you can. Now, obviously, right after your surgery, there's a period of time where you can't walk because you literally cannot feel your legs. Of course, I'm talking about once feeling has returned and the medication has worn off. Now, the nurses will come in and try to get you up way earlier than you feel ready. I know that's how I felt. I thought, woman, are you crazy? I can't walk yet. I'm not ready. And it was torture to get up and even make it to the bathroom the first time. But I promise you, the first time is the worst, and it gets exponentially better every time you get up. So the more you get up, the quicker you'll start to feel better and be able to move with more ease. Now, many of you that have been following me already know that my baby girls were in NICU for several days after their birth, and this actually is what I credit to helping me get better and get on my feet, to the point where doctors and nurses were commenting on how well I was doing so quickly. Now, my husband would go home for the night, so overnight I was by myself, but of course I was trying to breastfeed, and so I still needed to get to NICU several times throughout the night, which means I had to walk down the hall. Now, this wasn't a very far walk. NICU was pretty close to where my room was located. However, movement is movement, and it did really help me get better, and every time I got up, it got easier. My next tip is to stay on top of your pain medication. Now, if you're anything like me, taking too many pain medications while you're trying to breastfeed, if that is the route you are taking, can make you a little bit nervous. I know that I wanted to be off the pain medication as quickly as possible, but also keep in mind that you just had major surgery, and it is not easy, and it hurts quite a bit if you were just to drop that pain medication altogether. I was taking it whenever the doctor gave it to me, on their schedule, at their dose, for the first several days in the hospital especially. Now, I thought I was doing great, and I thought, wow, I can't believe how little I feel this, and it's not so bad. Yeah, until I missed one of my doses by accident, and I realized oh boy, this hurts. And once you're in that pain zone, I'm telling you, it's much harder to get under control again. So if you just stay on top of that pain medication for the first little bit, it'll be way easier on you, and you're not doing yourself or your baby any favors if you're too in pain to even take care of them. Another tip is to have something to support your core. Now, I used a product called Belly Bandit, which basically wrapped around my core like a corset and used Velcro. Now, it can be any product. It doesn't specifically have to be Belly Bandit. That's just the one that I use and have experience with. But anything that kind of tightens and gives you support in the core region will be so helpful after your C-section. Now, as you can imagine, if you've just been pregnant, whether or not it's with twins or with one or with even more than that, your core has been stretched out and it is weak. You've pretty much lost whatever muscle you've had in that area. So if you have something there to provide support, it can make your day-to-day activities a lot easier. I know for me, it made walking, laughing, sneezing so much better because it gave me the support and allowed me to do those things without making me feel like my insides were about to fall out. It also provided a lot of support for me on the car ride home. Going over those little bumps can seem like you're going over a mountain when you have a C-section, so it just provided, again, that extra support around that incision to make me feel like I was a little bit more secure. Now, this next tip might seem a little bit weird, but if you can help it, wait to shower until you get home. Now, obviously this will depend on how long you're in the hospital. If you're there for over a week, you're probably not going to wait to shower until you get home. But if you're only in the hospital for a few days and you can help it, I highly recommend you just wait. Now, I don't know what your hospital is like or what your hospital bathroom is like more specifically. Now, my hospital bathroom, the way the shower was designed, it was pretty open into the rest of the bathroom with just a little curtain. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there is a lot of blood involved after you have a baby, no matter how you deliver, whether it's C-section or vaginal. Now, this shower I was in allowed water and blood to kind of get everywhere. Now, I tried to keep it as contained as possible, but only that little curtain was there, like I said, so it pretty much got all over the floor in the whole bathroom. Now, because I was sharing a room with another girl and I didn't want to leave it that disgusting mess for her, this left me cleaning up the bathroom fresh after having surgery and having twins. I was in no shape to be doing this, and it was not an ideal situation. So if you can wait till you get home, I think it'll be a much calmer and more pleasant experience. But of course, if your bathroom in the hospital is not like mine and you won't have this messy problem, maybe this tip doesn't need to be followed after all. And my final tip is to see a pelvic floor specialized physiotherapist as soon as you are able to after giving birth. Now, this goes whether or not you had a C-section or not. Your pelvic floor physiotherapist, while that initial assessment is not comfortable, it's kind of an awkward thing, as you can imagine, they're assessing your pelvic floor health, is so beneficial. Now, I had issues going on that I just attributed to having a C-section and being pregnant with twins and just expected them to heal. Like, I just thought it was part of the healing process. And this went on for months until I realized it's not getting any better. So I went to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist and they identified some issues that I was having that I definitely needed help in resolving. And if I had have just gone as soon as possible, I wouldn't have had to suffer with that for so long. Now, the reason I mention a pelvic floor physiotherapist in a C-section specific video is because they can also help you work with your scar tissue. Now, if you haven't had a C-section before, you might not be aware that that scar tissue tightens up and puckers and can pull the skin around it, causing a bulge or a hangover, if you will, a little bit of extra belly. Now, this is a problem zone for us already, ladies, after you've had a baby and you're trying to flatten up that tummy. The last thing you need is scar tissue working against you. So they can work with you in helping to loosen up that scar tissue so that it doesn't create that puckering and that bulge. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this helps someone going into a C-section and you can learn from my mistakes. If you've had a C-section and you found something to be exceptionally helpful that I did not mention, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. I do love to hear from you. If you like this video and its content, please feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.